I want to start by wishing Deputy Martin well as incoming Taoiseach, a presumptive incoming Taoiseach. Today will be likely a proud day for you and your family and supporters, and I want to acknowledge that, and indeed to wish Deputy Harris well as outgoing Taoiseach and incoming Taoiseach. But Ceann Comhairle, increasingly this feels like Groundhog Day, or rather Groundhog Week, not just with Deputies Martin and Harris swapping roles, not just with President Trump reinstalled in the White House, but also because over here in Ireland, in recent weeks, it has felt like we are returning to the bad old days of stroke politics, of nod and a wink politics, with Fianna Fáil back again in the driving seat. All we need now is the return of the Galway tent to complete the picture. And this would be funny if it weren't so serious. I'm very glad that we've reached agreement today and that the whip read out an agreed form of words, acknowledging what is a self-evident truth, that you cannot be in government and in opposition at the same time as a TD. And that was the core democratic principle that we across the opposition had united on yesterday. And the situation in the Dáil yesterday was deeply regrettable. But it should never have come to that. And this was a chaos of the government's own making. And I'm really glad, Taoiseach and Taoiseach, that you reached out in the end and that we had a leaders' meeting this morning and that we were able to resolve things as we had sought to do. That's very important that we have done that and that we can move on. Because you have a very important task. The success of this government would be for the betterment of all in Irish society. And indeed, instead of going into a 2-week recess, we should now be convening the Dáil next week so we can fulfil our constitutional duty to hold the government to account from opposition. A government that should now be actively engaged in bringing about the change so badly needed by the communities that we all serve and that we represent. Change is desperately needed, colleagues, for the families facing eviction at the end of this month, for the 4,500 children now in homelessness, a shame for all of us, for the parents who cannot access autism supports, for additional needs places for their children, for patients languishing on waiting lists, and for all the young adults who we all know who are now booking one-way tickets to Australia because they see no life and no prospect of an affordable home for themselves here. But instead of working on the radical changes that are needed, your three partners, the Fianna Fáil, the junior coalition partner in Fine Gael, and of course the wobbly leg of the stool, the so-called regional group, you're offering a 160-page programme for government that essentially is promising more of the same. There is no sense, if you parse through that document, there is no sense of any acceptance of a need for change at all, and no indication as to the how of delivering on the few new commitments or aspirations set out. Indeed, many of the measures in the programme will see us going backwards. There's nothing there on how you're going to achieve the ramped-up delivery of homes that we all know is so badly needed. Instead, we're seeing more outsourcing of housing. There's nothing to strengthen renters' rights, and you've even ignored your own Housing Commission's recommendations. No sense of a radical reset on housing policy here. While climate targets are retained, that's welcome, but no meaningful pathway set out as to how we achieve them. And worse, the slashing of funds for cycling, for public transport, for sustainable transport in favour of building more roads. As Trump might say, roads, baby, roads. That's what we're going to see from this government. You've buried your heads in the sand when it comes to the impact of data centres, and you've left the door wide open for polluting LNG. The private sector is going to continue to be relied on, it seems, to deliver essential public services like childcare, and workers' rights are getting only a derisory treatment. You've abandoned initiatives like drug policy reform, like the Citizens' Assembly on the future of education, and there's nothing to reassure us about how we face the threat of Trump's dangerous tariff plans. There's only lukewarm prospects at best in the programme for achieving the necessary passage of the vital Occupied Territories Bill that we've all united on. In short, your programme for government is not up to the task, with no sense of urgency about tackling the crises that face us in housing, in climate, or indeed the crisis in disability services. We're seeing no vision, and we're seeing a regressive set of policies. Not only the policies, but the politics, the practice of politics too, is regressive. We do not even know what constituency deals or sidebar commitments were made to the Lowry lads, deals that do not appear in the text of this programme. And many people, Taoiseach and Taoiseach, let's be clear, many people were deeply uncomfortable, given his history, of the involvement of Deputy Lowry in the negotiation of the programme for government. Many people I think are very concerned, remembering when you, Deputy Martin, described Deputy Lowry as a rogue politician, calling on him to resign his seat. I think people despair that the highest standard, Deputy Martin, you can aim to is an assurance that a leading negotiator of the programme for government will not be in government to do any corruption, as if that was something to boast about. And to compound matters, to compound the discomfort so many of us feel, the Lowry leg of the stool was until today intent upon pulling off an old-style political trick by setting up in both government, having secured ministries, having secured commitments, and also in opposition, making a mockery of our democratic process. Bertie may not be back, but grubby deals are, and this looked like such a deal. And I'm very glad, as I say, we've secured now a commitment from the Whip and a commitment from you as government leaders that we will see this matter resolved with the agreement of both government and opposition. That's really important, and that's very welcome. For us in the Labour Party, we stand for a different kind of politics to you, a different kind of politics in our policies and in our practice of politics. We have a proud track record of high ethical standards for our public representatives, of transparency and integrity in our political practice and in our work. And we have a strong political vision for change. Our vision is for the creation of an active state, a state that can and will deliver for communities on housing, on climate, on care and on work. That's the programme we stood for in the election. It's the programme we will be working to achieve, even from opposition, and along with others on the left with whom we share a common vision over the course of this Dáil. We want to see this government building affordable homes, protecting our climate, defending the rights of children, ending child poverty, ensuring timely access to healthcare, guaranteeing decency at work, and using the machinery of the state to drive down household bills. We want to see a government that will support integration and stand firm against the politics of hate and the politics of the far right. And as we always have, we in the Labour Party will work constructively from opposition with those who share our vision to achieve the change that we believe in over the course of this government. We will hold you to account fiercely and fairly, with integrity and with transparency, as we've always done. And I look forward to the challenge ahead.
Thank you, Deputy.